Welcome to Brightly, You Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. We're just a couple curious people interested in friendship, ideas, and personal development. This is a show that strives to speak to the curious, to those who long to explore new ways of thinking, reflecting, and being. Through sharing our experiences, friendship, and interests, we hope to impact you to step more brightly into yourself, inch by inch.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Tracy. How are you doing?
Happy today.
I feel happy today because it's morning and we're doing this.
It is morning. So typically we record these on Friday nights, but we're trying to get a little bit ahead to make sure that we never miss a show. And I'm sleepy. I don't know about you, but I'm happy. Today we're going to be talking about goals and goal setting. And when we were talking about, how do we want to open the show? The first thing that came to mind was yesterday I had set a goal of mine to get up, get ready, and get out the door and get to a local coffee shop to get my favorite drink as like a reward for doing this a little bit. Usually I'm awake, but I'm not chatty. And last night, as I'm drifting away into a peaceful slumber, like almost asleep, there's just this voice in my head that goes, "We're not going to the coffee shop in the morning." And I did not disagree. But I had set a goal and then I let myself just let that goal drift away. The second things got a little tough.
It wasn't even like you talked yourself out of that goal or anything like that. You were just like, yeah, no.
I accept this. My new goal is just to wake up in the morning. and I did it. I'm here.
That is okay.
Had I had a plan, I would have. I mean, we both, during our pre-show check-in, we both agreed about 10 minutes in, we need caffeine. We took a little break and I went and got my tea indoors. I didn't leave my house and you went and got your coffee. And had I gone and done it, I would have had my preferred drink here. So it's a tiny goal, but I'm kind of bummed that I didn't do it,
Oh, yeah.
But last night I accepted we're not, but this morning I woke up and it was like, we kind of did want that. So it's a little goal, but you're gonna talk to us about goals.
I am going to talk to you about goals, but I'm just wondering if maybe that goal was just delayed. It's not like it was never to be. It was just delayed. So either you could do it after the show, or you could do it tomorrow morning, right? So have you completely abandoned your goal or have you just delayed it? I mean, there's a couple of different ways to look at that. And that's not how I was going to start it. But I did want to say, and I'm just going to read this because I wrote it and I don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah, there we go.
Setting goals actually gives purpose. It gives purpose to the way we live our lives, right? The way we go about our days and sometimes our frame of mind when we wake up every day. So what I really want to think about, or want everyone to think about, including myself, is that goals do or can give us a direction instead of just, go ahead.
To me, it's about living with intention, which is a larger goal of mine or a value of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And when those times when I don't go for the little goals, as silly as they may seem, that's also just me living with a little bit less intention too, living with a little less purpose.
I like that. A little less intention. I can remember one time, my mom said, she said, it's not just another day, it's your life. And honestly, when you just get up every day and you live your life and you put out your little fires and you do the little things and you're like, I should have done that. I should do that. I need to do this. And you don't really think about how you're living your life with intention or how you want to be living your life or the dreams, goals, ambitions, whatever that you have, then it is just another day, right? It's just another day.
It's so beautiful and so inspiring and such I want to live that way through my life, but it can also make it a little overwhelming, oh God, this is my life. This is a huge, how do we chunk it out, these bigger goals of, living an amazing life,
Yeah.
living a life that makes us happy, into smaller goals that
And
are
honestly, right. In order to not be overwhelmed, you do have to think about it in a much smaller picture, right? We've all heard about the SMART goals. So, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely.
so timely. I struggle with that
Oh, timely.
one.
You, you, something mistress, right? It's this morning I was having a really hard time with the timely aspect. I said to Tracy, time is not expanding around me. However, so
Often does that happen with our goals when we,
yes.
set a date either we were too ambitious and we were never,
Mhm.
it was never actually going to happen.
Right.
Or we kind of set a stretch goal and we give ourselves too much time to get lost in
Yes.
other things.
So
And you
many
just wonder, where
things.
did the time go? Why didn't the time expand?
Yes. Why
Where did
didn't
I
it?
spend my time instead?
Exactly. And I think the other thing too is that sometimes you're like, okay, it has to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be achieved, it has to be all these things. And you're like, by the time you're done with it, your goal, it doesn't even sound like your goal anymore. And so I also would say, yes, consider this. You don't have to hit on every single one of those. I honestly just be kind to yourself, but also the specificity of it, I do think we need to talk about, because you can say to yourself, hey, I want more money, and
Who
walk
doesn't?
out your door. Yeah. And find a dollar bill on the ground. And guess what? You have more money, right? Like the universe is kind of funny that way. Like the
Yeah.
universe has a sense of humor. You want more adventure? Oh, just get a flat tire, like that's kind of adventurous, because maybe you've never changed a flat tire.
Different from your day to day.
Exactly. So when I was 14, I went to Duluth with my mom, her best friend, her best friend's daughter, and myself. And actually, the best friend's daughter and we're friends as well. So we go to Duluth. It's the first time. I'm 14 years old. I grew up in Minnesota. It's the first time I've seen Lake Superior. Like, I am blown away by this body of water, the waves crashing. And I know in my heart, like, I'm not even satisfied with just Lake Superior. I'm like, someday I am going to live on the ocean. And so my mom said, let's all take a penny. Sorry, this isn't very environmentally sound, but it was like early
Just before you knew better.
1970s. It was, anyways, let's all take a penny, make a wish, and throw it into Lake Superior.
There's worse things in that lake.
I know. So that was my wish. I am going to live on the ocean someday.
Oh,
Guess what?
flash forward to your 98th birthday.
No,
Wow, what happened?
no. I'm 15 years old. My mom has met someone. He's from the East Coast. They're getting married and they're moving to Rhode Island. We're moving to Rhode Island. I'm like, wait, what? And it's on the ocean. I'm like,
Wow.
okay. I didn't mean now. Like, what are you talking about?
Your poor mom having to go along with that wish for you.
No, she was fine. She was fine with it. Me, so no, I hadn't, not yet. So I actually stayed behind for a year. I lived with my best friend for a year, but then it was like, I missed my mom too much and I went. And this was after I achieved a different goal, and that's a different story. But so be very careful with what your goals are, right? Be specific.
What I love about that story though is you set a goal, and also kind of a magical dream and a wish in your heart, and it affected those around you as well.
Like,
So,
I am a powerful manifester.
and it seems like for the better. So just, I love that, because it shows that when you achieve your goals, it can have a ripple effect on other people. Whether or not you achieving your goal means your mom meets a great man and gets married and moves away or not, but there's just that positive aspect of you achieving what you set out to achieve, and how that can either inspire or indirectly affect those around you. That's beautiful.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, once again, just like back when we were talking about visualization and visioning, you can't set a goal for somebody else,
No.
right? No, you have to set a goal for yourself. And my goal wasn't, that my mom moved to the ocean.
Exactly.
So hopefully, I'm sure she was fine with that. She met so many great friends there, but so I think she was fine with that.
But what I also love about that is you set a goal for yourself and you achieved it through indirect means. It was a big goal. It happened way sooner than you thought it was, but it was something that you wanted. And here, as you said, you manifested it, you achieved it.
Yeah.
How much more likely were you to set bigger goals after that and believe you could reach them? The fact that you had set the goal and then something had happened in relation to the goal just further inspired you to take action, further affected you to keep making choices and to keep, dreaming big.
Well, that's interesting because at first I was going to say, no, I don't think it did. And yet the story that I was going to say, well, that's a different story, was I always loved theater. And so in my year living with my best friend, I went to a high school in St. Louis Park. And for the following year, we were going to be doing the play Barefoot in the Park. And so how they did it is you auditioned for the parts because it was going to be a spring play. So you auditioned for the parts the year before. So I'm in 10th grade and I auditioned for Barefoot in the Park. And oh my gosh, I can't believe it. What's her name? So Jane Fonda played the role in the movie, but I can't remember the character's name. And I got that part. Like I got the lead in Barefoot in the Park.
Wow.
That's huge. I was a 10th grader,
Yeah,
right?
that is
like
big.
It's huge. And then the summer before my junior year, it meant more to me to move to Rhode Island and be with my mom. And the ocean actually didn't come into my head, but to be with my mom.
Right.
And so I gave up the one in order to do the other. But then that's so interesting, Tracy, because I don't think I was like, you're a powerful manifester. Because I feel like when you're a teenager, you can talk yourself out of any kind of great thing about yourself, right?
I still can.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So, I mean,
I wonder though, like that goes back to the SMART goals and being specific, because it sounds like your goal was to get the part, not to play the role. And so,
oh, Tracy,
achieve that, right?
You're so smart. Yes, I did achieve it. And then my best friend, whose family I lived with, she got the role of the mother in the play. So I move away and she then gets to be
the role.
Yes. And then I came back to Minnesota and watched her perform in the play. So it was this beautiful circle, right?
Yeah.
And all wonderful feelings too. So it was pretty cool. This is not a great segue though, because I do want to talk about so these were like pretty big things, right? And I think that like what we were talking about earlier, you get overwhelmed with the big stuff, right?
Yeah,
and so
I'm
then
sure
maybe
you had to do a lot more than tell the universe you wanted the role. You had to learn lines and show up and, embody the part.
Right, exactly. But then sometimes too, I think that we convince ourselves that like our to-do lists are our goals.
Oh, that's interesting. Say more.
So like during the day, like maybe for the weekend, I'll say, okay, what do I want to get done this weekend? And in my head, it's like, this is a goal I'm working towards. Well, cleaning the closet, is that really a goal? Maybe it is. If it leads to like, I want to create room, I'm creating room space for the clothes I actually want. Maybe it is, but maybe it is just a to-do list. So I think you have to decide, like, are these steps things that I'm working towards for a goal, or is it just a to-do list? And believe me, when I say just a to-do list, I still need to-do lists. Like, I still need to get things, day-to-day things done.
But also what a motivating tool to use to get you to tackle the things you don't want to do. Because for me, like deep clean
Mhm.
every Sunday, I don't want to do it. But when I don't do it, my house doesn't feel or look like I want it to be. I want my house to reflect a certain um, feel. Everybody
Mhm.
when they come into my home, that's kind of like the first thing they say is, "Wow, it has such a vibe." It has nothing to do with my decor, but I tell you, that vibe goes way down when there's clutter. That vibe goes way down when I don't feel like my floors are clean. I'm not
This is
pointing at
almost
other
like a
people.
teaser for next week.
It is. But so that larger goal, because what do you call it? You have a name for your Sundays, right? What do you and your husband? Because we don't record on Sundays, we don't do show stuff because you're doing your cleaning and you're organizing.
Yeah, but well, I don't
Well,
think
what do
my
you?
husband.
Well,
I'm
but what do you call
blessing.
it?
Yeah, I'm it's like it's the day for the house. It's the house day, but I also call it like I'm blessing the
Yes,
house.
you're blessing your
I'm
house.
blessing the
And
house.
so that turns a little goal like organizing my closet or sweeping my floors into, like a to-do list item into this larger goal that I will be motivated to achieve.
Yeah.
I'm blessing my house. I
Well,
think
and so I think that's really important because I think that then you can tie sort of your to-do list items into your larger goal or dream that you want for yourself.
And I like that you bring up to-do lists because I've seen there's so much out there on productivity, for your workday or for yourself, but there's a lot out there about the number of things that should be on your to-do list. And this is going to make a lot of people gasp and laugh, but you shouldn't have more than seven. Seven. Seven things on your to-do list. And I was like, one single item on my to-do list has seven of its own items. And then each of those has seven of its own. Like, what do you mean only seven on my list? And the more I kind of looked into it, I'm not going to quote any one specific person because there's a lot of people that believe in that ideal. But I saw where my energy was getting sucked out in that
Ooh.
overwhelmingness of not starting, maybe having the bigger goal in mind. And that's not on my to-do list, that's on it's kind of project managing your life. Like I'm aware of it, but it's putting the one little thing in there, and having seven of the littler things so that I'm not feeling that overwhelming,
Mhm.
49 things to do. But when I started doing it, oh, I don't have my calendar in front of me, or I'd show you. But I have this week-long calendar where it's just columns, 7 columns.
Mhm.
And I've started writing out numbers 1 through 7. And I put my top work priorities on the top of the list and my very top home and personal life priorities, hobbies, whatever I want to do that day on the bottom of the list. And then I either work gets more or home gets more, but there's only so much Tracy to give. And so it really makes me reflect on my goals that I can do 7 things today. And these 7 goal area to-do list items don't include the small doing my dishes every day, cleaning the litter box, taking the trash out, like the other things that zap my energy.
Mhm.
So when I'm making my to-do list, I'm a little bit more mindful. And then I can either tell work or Tracy, like, there's just not enough you to do all these things. How can we still achieve goals and not burn out? Whereas in the past, I would just keep writing the same to-do lists over and over and over again, and then just getting really hard on myself and frustrated with myself when I wasn't seeing movement, when I wasn't crossing things out. It even got to a point where I even stopped rewriting them because it's like this huge notebook with
Yeah.
3 columns and all these things. And finally, I was like, you have too
Yeah.
many goals. You have too many goals. And so then that also brings me, I personally, I have adult ADHD. Um, some of it, you may have heard it as ADD, so attention deficit disorder. And so sometimes for me, when I write stuff on a list, my brain is like, check. Like how many of us
Yes.
keep our goals in our head, whether it's a to-do list item or a bigger goal item, like you keep it in your head. And it's so exhausting, but like the second I write it down, my brain's like, oh, we did it. It's like a dopamine
Well,
hit.
and even talk about what you did. Was that yesterday morning or this morning or
Oh,
something
yeah.
about just, yeah.
So yesterday I logged into my computer and got a bunch of documents open that I needed to work on, got everything set up, everything, ready to go so that I was super organized. And then a friend was like, hey, do you want a phone call? And I really could have used a phone call. And so I started talking to her, and when I'm on the phone, I kind of wander around my house. Sometimes, when it's much warmer out, I'll put in my AirPods and I'll just go for a walk, both get exercise and talk to someone. And so I'm wandering around my house and the call ends, and I completely forgot that I had sat down and to work on this. And because I had done all that prep and was like, okay, I'm working on this project, that like, not stressful, but like that little impetus to be like, you got to do the thing, you got to do the thing was gone. Cause that part of my brain was like, we did the thing. And that dopamine hit you get with like the little, like just getting started is sometimes the biggest task for me, whether that's ADD or something else. And so I just started doing other things. And then this morning at like 7:15, I was like, oh no.
Didn't do the thing.
I didn't actually do the thing. Thankfully, it wasn't a time bound thing, so I was fine. But it's so easy if you don't write down your goals to forget that they're goals.
It's so funny too, because anything you read about goals, it's like the most successful people in the world write their goals down and then look at them 3 times a day. And once again, you're like, that seems easy. Write my goal down and look at it 3 times a day. And then your brain is just like, cha la la, let's go,
Yeah.
make
And
these
I've
cookies.
heard that's part of ADD too, is that object blindness. So if I write something on a Post-it and put it on my monitor,
yes,
because of my ADD, I'm more likely not to notice it when I do that. So
I had never heard of that, Tracy.
Oh, it's so easy to just completely walk by things because they're always there. So for me, it's not as simple as, like you had your vision board or whatever, or that, not whatever, but your beautiful vision board that you crafted and that you keep in front of your desk. I get blindness to that. And so that's why I kind of talked about last episode. I put it in my routine to look at my affirmations on it's built in as something I do every day, is to actively do it. It's not enough for me just to write an inspirational quote on the wall. I will walk by that Post-it every day. It'll fall down and I'll be like, oh, what's this? Oh my God.
Yes.
This is my New Year's resolution from 2017. What happened?
Right. So I love it that you create something, like you do it and it's part of your routine. And I feel like I've started to do that. I've set up this little thing where it's like, I make sure I have affirmations, visualization, meditation, like every day. Now, what I've noticed when I started to keep track is maybe I don't hit affirmation, meditation, visualization every single day, but I hit one of them.
Yeah.
And I have decided that that is good.
It's kind of like
I
exercise,
am okay.
3 to 4 days a week. You don't have to do
Right.
an hour-long session 7 days a week.
Right.
You're still building it into your life.
Honestly, when I think about all the Post-it notes I've put up and then ignored, this makes so much sense to me. The other thing is I think that you can set reminders, like I am lucky enough to have an Apple Watch, and it literally will be like, hey, it's time for this thing. Hey.
I've been told by a few people that the amount of alarms I have in my phone is overwhelming. I have never needed an alarm to wake up in my life. Those are all my prompts. I use emojis too, because I know I'll ignore the words. So I have like a pretty princess one to remind me, hey, if you haven't already gotten up and, showered today, now's the time. This is the last part of the day for you to have enough time before work or your first activity. There's one to remind me to eat, to like, if because sometimes the opposite side of ADHD is hyperfocus. And so sometimes I get so lost in something, and it's really easy to hit snooze on those alarms, but it's also a prompt for me, like, you've done that before. You need, if you're going to get anywhere, you need to sustain yourself. You need to eat, or you do need to stop this project, or you do need to go on to something else.
Right.
But I say the flip side for that for me as well is just that having to organize your goals and do the smart things. I get overwhelmed, and then I get anxious avoidant of that. And then what happens to the goal then? And then, that self-defeating critical thought process of like, oh, you can't even work towards this. You can't even work towards that. And I'm not giving myself a credit for what I am doing. Like you said, the day-to-day stuff, or even maybe the little things I have done, but maybe I forgot to write them down and they were needed for the goal.
Right.
And so I'm trying to write, I call them to-done lists.
I love it so much.
So sometimes when it comes to a to-do list, I'm getting really overwhelmed by all the things I'm writing down, all the things I have to do, all the stuff I'm like, oh, you forgot that, or oh, this is new. And sometimes I'll just pause and I'll write down everything I did do that day or that week or that weekend so that I can be like, you get to cross that off. You get to cross this
Yeah.
off because you did it.
Yeah. Or even look at what I did, look at what I
Exactly.
accomplished. Because sometimes to get over that sort of overwhelm or avoidance, it is good to look at, I have achieved things in my past, and look at the things that you actually have achieved. And you reminded me of that today when you're like, so you did this great big thing and you lived at the ocean, and then you did get this part and you had to do things to get that part. And I was like, gosh darn it, I did have to do things to get that part. And now I need to just like embody that again and remember that.
So one of
Right.
my favorite quotes, I don't know how to fit into the show, but it kind of seems to relate now. But it's from Ben Bergeron. He has trained like the majority of the CrossFit champions of the world. And a
Okay.
lot of them have been repeat winners, but they've all been coached by him. And one of the things he really imparts on the people he coaches is happiness does not lie on the other side of achievement. So you have these
Ooh.
people who work so tremendously hard, put their body, mind, soul to just go through the absolute ringer of CrossFit games, and then they win and it's just done.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes this goal setting process kind of reminds you it is a process, and it's about who you're becoming through it. And that maybe as you're starting to achieve one goal, that's why it's nice to have a list of all the goals you want in your
Yeah.
life, is because then you can start the baby steps towards the next one. Because it is great, it
Honestly,
does feel great to achieve, but
yes.
it's that what next. Our brains are just primed for it to not be happy when you get what you wanted. Like, you just discredit yourself for getting a starring role. I don't care what
Yeah.
your age. That's amazing. There's
Yeah.
competition for that, and you do have to work for that.
And I think too, sometimes that might be what happens with people when they retire. It's almost as if then they're like, well, I don't have to work towards any goals now. And then, oh, they, dead in 2 years or something. Oh, sorry, that was horrible. But I think that it's important that no matter what your age, you continue to strive to achieve certain goals. And like we said, it doesn't have to be like, I'm going to, climb Mount Everest, but maybe it's, I'm going to, my goal is to be healthier and healthier. And this is how I'm going to achieve that goal.
Well, and it goes back to what you said about purpose. So if you're struggling with how to make a goal, go back to what you want your purpose to be, and
Right.
you probably will find something you can be doing towards that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why retirement hits people so hard, is that loss of
Yes.
purpose. Or
Mhm.
even empty nester syndrome. I hear so often, oh, women don't have hobbies, girls don't have hobbies. I'm sorry, I do the cooking, the cleaning, the sewing. Like, I am raising the children. I'm not a mom, by the way, but like raising the children, it, one, takes up that time, and two, kind of is a hobby and a goal of itself. And so once that child is fully raised and grown, which, although I'm sure you have adult children, it never ends. I know my parents would agree. But like, that's where the empty nester syndrome comes from. It's not that you don't necessarily have someone to take care of. It's that was so ingrained in your purpose. And that
Mhm.
was your goal every day, was to do
Mhm.
that. And so how do
Yeah.
you reinvest that time in yourself? Whether
Yeah.
it's retirement, empty nester syndrome, a layoff. I've been laid off before, and I was so anxious and stressed about the new goal of finding a job. I did not use that time how I could have. I had health and fitness goals, I had reading goals, I had hobby goals, and I was either looking for work or I was stressed because I didn't sit down and be like, how do I want to use my time? You
Well,
know,
and I think that's a really good point, because no matter if it is retirement or empty nester or a layoff, which you can't always see ahead, but if you do already have these goals or things that you're working toward, then when those things happen, you still have them, right? You still have those things. However, I also think you need to just give yourself the time to maybe grieve or be in the moment, feel the feelings, and then move on, not just be so like enmeshed in the fact that I must be achieving, I must be doing something. Give yourself some space and time first. And then from a calm point or a
Yeah.
more stable point, you can
And
look at
so
goals.
for me, for goals, what that comes down to is recognizing and being accountable to myself.
Yeah,
Am I giving myself an excuse, or do I need to give myself grace?
very good point. I
Yeah, I
think
think,
that we are terrible at giving ourselves grace.
or we give ourselves excuses, calling it grace, and
Oh,
realizing the damage that does.
yeah.
I'll tell you what, I love my friends. I love you for it. We're really good at validating our friends' bad choices because we want them to feel well. We want them to feel good. And in the moment, that was the need,
Yeah.
like they couldn't do the thing, they didn't do the thing. And what the need there was validation and friendship. That's great. But the accountability partner in me and like the more ambitious goal oriented side of me, sometimes I'll tell my friends, like, that's not what I need right now. Like, that's great. And I love you. I should have done this. I need help getting started to do this.
Yeah.
I'm not doing what I need to do. Like, my goal is the important thing here. I've done weeks of excuses. Like, I have a
Yeah.
friend where we wanted to do morning walks and we would call each other. And so we would both get up super early and go and do the walk. And knowing both of us, I knew if I were to tell her I can't do it today, she'd be like, okay, I'll support you in that. And I knew if she did the same, I'd do the same for her. And so I was like, for me to be a good friend in this, I'm never going to do that. I'm always going
Oh,
to be there and I'm always going to show up because I know there are days when I'm not going to want to. And I know there are days when she's not going to want to. And we can't let each other do that. Like the goal isn't to be kind to each other and to embrace, these daily poor decisions.
yeah.
It's to try and build up the good ones.
Yeah.
But then there are times with other goals where it is like, no, you need grace. I've been trying to remodel this office of mine since October. And I keep talking to you about it. Part of it's perfectionism. Part of it, I don't know what I'm doing. The other part is I'm using a teeny tiny hand sander on a very big floor covered in paint.
Make sure you have the right tools for your goals to get accomplished.
But for me, I gave myself grace because after I started it, I had to remind myself, I painted the room. Like I painted the whole room. That was a big project to do on my own. And then, I mean, it's a small, simple thing, but it took a whole weekend of it. And I didn't want to do it. and and then I ended up having a surgery. And then, we are in a
Right.
pandemic, so we are stressed
Mhm.
from other things. And I live alone. I have other rooms to work in. I was like, that's not your top priority. That is now just a fun little side project to see it, and also in my head, part of it is, well, once you do the floors, you want to learn to do built-in bookcases and you don't have the tools for that and you don't have the skills for that. And how are you going to afford that? And it's like,
Oh gosh, you went so far into
I
the
went
future,
so far
Tracy.
down. Whereas like this
Oh
weekend, I
yeah.
was like, Tracy, the goal is we sand for an hour every day this week. And if we go longer, that's great. But the new goal is 1 hour a day.
That's
We can do that.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So honestly, getting ready. One of the things that I love about the show that we're doing this together is that so often like we come up with ideas for the shows, right?
Mhm.
And then
It plays out in real life.
it plays out in real life. So I'm doing this and full disclosure, we've talked about my mom. We joke about my mom all the time. My mom was literally a public speaker and an author, and she spoke and wrote about goal setting and time management and then towards the end the myths of aging. So goals are one of those things where it was like, I know everything through osmosis and I am a great goal achiever and I don't need to even concentrate on it. And I can write all this stuff about goals because I know it, right? So was it last night or the night before? Last night, Rick says, what's the show on? I said, well, it's going to be on goals and goal setting. And he looks at me and goes, do you have a goal? And I went, well, I mean, yeah, well, yeah, I do.
Did you
I've
mean for
got
the show or just like in life?
in life. He
I
meant
can
in
name like
life.
5 goals of yours. What is he
But
talking about?
no. But I think what he meant was, do you have a specific measurable, like, have you actually articulated it? So then I was just like, well, yeah, I do have, it's a pretty big goal. It's this thing. And then he goes, like, well, what are you going to do with that? I go, oh, I think actually what my goal needs to be is this step down here.
Yeah.
That's what my goal needs to be, because I have done this where I set a goal and maybe I even write it down. And then just like you, Tracy, my brain's like, done. And then I go back 3 years and look at a journal and I go, what? That was my goal then? That's still my goal. What happened? So this is what I want to talk about now. Like, okay, I've actually articulated a goal and I've written it down. I kind of missed one of the steps I want to start taking. I was a little bit late on the new moon, but this goes back to our cycles and just
Rituals.
like living the cyclical life. So if you go by the new moon, like literally that's when you should be creating something that you want to accomplish. And the beautiful thing is, if you go by the new moon, your goal is like, it's a 6-month goal, because you want to be working towards it until the opposite full moon, which is 6 months later in the same sign, right? Okay. So what I've decided is, I've got this goal. I need to keep it in my calendar. I need to look at it every day, and I need to actually write it in every month so that I see it and the steps that I'm taking for it. Right?
And it's making that time for that accountability.
Yes.
That
Yes.
today I'm going to do something to move me towards that goal.
But so that's the other part. I'm glad you brought up the accountability, and you were talking about your friend and the accountability that you had with each other. If I didn't have Tracy, I would not be here talking.
Same.
So this,
and I didn't have a pre-show ritual with Amy, I might not sketch out outlines for the show and have any thoughtful substance to bring. The fact that I have to, like, I want to show up for not just the listeners, but for Amy, it took the me out of it. Like, this is a goal of mine, but now I'm accountable to you.
Yes. And I think that we shouldn't discount the fact that this was actually a huge goal. I feel like this was like a dream goal for both of us separately. Like, I've always wanted to have a podcast, right? And then when we finally decided to do it together, that's when things were set into motion. And we chunked it out. We did things exactly like how I'm talking about it. It was almost like project management, right? You knew that this was your end goal, and then you took the steps, everything that had to be taken in order to get to this point. And these were little steps. And it was hard for me at times, because I'm like, let's do a podcast. Okay, let's record tomorrow. And Tracy's like, no. We have to decide all these things. And thank goodness.
Well, and that's why accountability partners are great. And they can be someone who's doing the same thing as you, or just somebody who also has a goal that they would like you to help them achieve. I have one professionally at work who I absolutely adore. And we used to have like these set things that we would cover each week to hold us very accountable to our to-do lists. And finally I said, what I get the most out of this, like, there was one day when she looked at me and she's like, Tracy, we bring our whole selves to work. Like, it's not just about what you produce each day. And I was like, I would much rather have these little gems of wisdom and support from you. Like, I know what my to-do lists are, and I know my boss manages my deadlines. So for her as an accountability partner, now we meet about every other week, and we ask each other 3 questions, and we don't know what the questions are in advance. And so picking the questions that I want to ask her, I also kind of answer them for myself. So like, we're helping develop each other professionally, which is great. But what I love about my accountability partnership with you is I'm really good at organizing. I'm really good at flushing out SMART goals and writing everything down and spending a whole day in my brand new bullet journal and multicolored pens and multiple spreadsheets. And I have so much organized, but I get so stuck in analysis paralysis, I don't take action. So for this project, and even for my work accountability partner, they snap me out of it. Just get started. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just work on it for 20 minutes. Let's just talk it out now. Oh, you have this thing that you're working on with your boss. Let's talk it out. And instantly this project where I didn't even know where to get started is now halfway done in my head just because I
Right.
started talking about it with somebody. So
And-
accountability partners are great. They don't have to be that person that you're going for a walk with every day.
right.
They're
And
that person that is not going to validate you giving up on your goal.
yes. And also not just your yes partner, right? Or, hey, that was really great what you did, but somebody who's going to say, that was great, but what about this? I think we need to think about this, or I think you need to think about this, or have you thought about
Yeah,
that?
have you thought?
So, right. So someone who can push back on your excuses, let's say.
But in a way that is meant to inspire and not shame. Because I can ask those questions of
Ooh,
myself and it turns into a shame spiral real quick. And then how motivated am I to get going?
super good point.
Yeah.
Yes. And
I'm way
that
more
is a
likely to be
fine.
like, you know what?
Yeah.
That's not a goal. We're never going to do it. We can't
Yeah.
achieve it. Like,
And honestly, when my husband said, do you have a goal? Like, I did not, it wasn't like he said, well, do you even have a goal? He was just like, do you have a goal? Like, he was interested. He was asking a question. And then I had to think to myself, wow, I haven't even talked to him about my goal with this goal that I had. And perhaps that would be a good idea to talk to your partner about a goal that you have.
well, and what I love about that is you with you following the new moon cycle to the next full moon in the same astrological sign, that I recently heard probably on TikTok or Instagram, someone was like, "Where do you want to be in 6 months?" And I was like, "I don't know.
Yeah.
Do I know? I don't think where do I want to be in 6 months? Because it is not
Yeah.
in the place I am now. I mean, there's a lot of
Right.
stuff I'm happy with in my life, but like, do I want to be doing the exact same thing as now? And so for me, what do I do when I don't know what that goal is? Like I have little goals, like I said, like I want to learn to play the guitar, but like when I think of like where do I want to be in 6 months, like being the next
Yeah.
Eric Clapton, that's not the
No.
goal. Like I just want to start a
Well,
weekly practice. That goal is easy, but like I don't have a big goal. And I want that motivation in life. I want to be a little bit more ambitious, but I don't know what I want.
so I'm going to just back up a little bit about the 6 month goal and how it helps me is so often people are like, what's your 5 year plan? Or your 10-year plan? And okay, I'm 62. And not that I don't think I'm going to live a really long ass life. I do. But honestly, it's like, no, I want to know, I want something in 6 months, not 5 years from now. Right.
Yeah, it's so easy for those 5 and 10 year goals. I mean, some people do have that ambition and that drive to that's what they need. But for me, it's too big. It's too much. It's
Right.
too pie in the sky.
Right.
It's too far
Right.
away. I still need the bigger, small chunk goals to
Yes.
get there.
So if you don't know what your goal is, like if you're like, this is all great, Tracy and Amy, but I don't know that I've ever thought of what a goal is, go back to your feelings, right? Go back to how you feel about something. What do you want to feel? Like, do you want to feel like you're more connected? Do you want to feel, um, I don't know, more spiritual? Also, so how do you want to feel? But also maybe just choose one area of your life, right? Is it your career? Is it your friends? Is it spirituality? Is it your body?
Your
Just
physical
choose.
environment.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Just choose one area of your life. Someone's calling me right this second. It's hilarious.
They have a goal of reaching you.
Oh my gosh. um, and I think the cool thing is like, how do you want to feel? That's your goal, but then you can figure out the steps that you need to take there. I, I think if you go back, like if you did a vision board, like these big dreams or wishes, like look at your vision board, right? Look at your vision board. Is there something that actually jumps out at you? Um,
So that also, so sometimes for me with goals or goal setting, do you not know or do you not believe you can achieve that?
right.
So let's say you want to be married in 5, 10 years, like having, a spouse, significant other, and children is a goal of yours. But for some reason, you don't think you're good enough for love. whatever that shadow work is that you have to do. Some
Oh,
people,
yeah.
it's appearance, weight, their career, their financial state. So you have to look at, these bigger goals that you might not think you can achieve, or, dreams you might be, thinking it's just a dream.
Mhm.
I guarantee you can chunk it down into these smaller goals. Like you said, if you look at
Mhm.
the reasons you tell yourself why you can't have it, those are now your goal reasons. Because if
Ooh,
you want
talk
it,
more about that though. Can you be specific about that? Like,
a lot of people talk about like, oh, I want to date, but I need to lose 10 pounds. Cool. We can do that, in a body positive way. You can eat healthy, you can move more, you can achieve that look that you want to achieve, or you can reach out to a friend or a professional to figure out how to overcome those thoughts and recognize
yeah.
that you're good enough and valuable enough as you are. Let's
I
say
don't,
financially you don't think you're ready for a spouse, or I have a ton of student loan debt, and it does stop me from dating, or it does get in my head about like, God, this is a conversation we're going to have with a future partner someday. And I feel so much shame around past Tracy's decisions, but I've also done enough therapy to know she got me where I am today. I got through school, I got multiple
mhm.
degrees, I have a great job, I'm working towards paying it down, and the system was broken. I did what I was supposed to do
Okay.
at the time.
So I'm going to jump in and I would also say, look at how you would be a great partner. What are your soft skills?
Mm,
What makes you a great friend? Right? So
yeah.
what makes you a great partner? So not only thinking about the goal you want to achieve, but how are you maybe already in that space now? So um
But
like I
also for
said,
going back to the goals though, like so for let's say financially, you don't think there's so many people, especially right now with the turn in the economy, and I've lived
mhm,
through a recession and layoffs too. I moved back literally into my parents' basement at 30 years old.
yeah.
Like as a female, I didn't have quite the stigma as I feel like some males experience with that, but there's
Mhm,
so many stereotypes with that, and so many logistical things and all that. But like for me now, when I think of like, oh, I want a long-term loving relationship, and there's like lots of things about that, that could be a separate goal. But when it comes to what's standing in between me and achieving this dream, I
mhm,
can read financial books. I can start following my budget better. I can, like there's all these little things where it's not necessarily related to me being a good partner or me finding a partner, but it's helping my confidence where I thought I was lacking with being able to achieve this
yes.
other seemingly unrelated goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I try and do the level 10 life. I'm a little overboard sometimes, so like level 10 life, it's a lot of these facets of life that we talked about. And so the first year I did it, I set 3 goals for each area of life. That's 30 goals.
Woo!
And like these were
Woo!
big goals. And
That's past your 7 on your to-do list
right.
for
And
sure.
someone once said, because it was like, I don't have 5 or 10-year goals. They're like, I think you do. You're just trying to do them all in 1 year. And so that's where it goes back to like, write out all your goals. Write down big dreams, big wishes, big goals, things that you think are getting in the way of it, things you thought you could never achieve, and then pick what ones you can do now. Just a
Mhm.
handful, and then chunk those down to those tinier baby steps.
And I would add, I guarantee that once you start actually achieving the tinier baby steps, your spirit, your brain, everything is like, oh, you can achieve things. And now you've you've proved it to yourself that you can achieve things, right? And especially that's the other reason why it's so important to just chunk it out into tinier steps. But I also just want to stress, I love getting it all out on paper. And even so, let's say you've got this huge, like, I want to live in France for 2 years on the Mediterranean
Which you're
Sea.
saying that like it's pie in the sky, but people do it. France exists.
People
You can
do
get
it.
visas. People do it.
France exists. I
France
love that.
exists.
But so what? Oh, okay. Hey, guess what? I can get a passport. I can look and see how much flights are. I can do these things. But also, I love it that you're getting it out, because then it's like once you put it on paper, and believe me, I'm a firm believer on getting it on paper, but then not forgetting about it, not saying, hey, it's done. But I feel like when you do get it on paper, when you do articulate it, it's a way for your brain to start to organize, like, oh, how could this? Okay, here's some steps you do need to take.
And to also remember, your emotions and your mood shouldn't dictate your behavior. And so often it does, and especially when the goals only affect ourselves, especially when we don't have accountability partners, when we haven't told anybody about the goal, when it's really easy to make those excuses or to give too much grace.
Yeah.
And so it's that old, like, to be disciplined, to have motivation means doing it even when you don't feel like it. So by writing all this down, by doing the pre-work, the fun work, I mean, if you manage your expectations well too, that's the other part of managing your mood, is managing your expectations. Like I said, there are only 24 months in a year. I don't know how I thought I was going to get 30 huge goals done. Like I couldn't even focus on one a month. I was going to have to
Wait a minute. There's 12 months in a year.
Sorry, 12. No. There's my first problem, Amy. There's 24 hours in a day. I combined two statements I was going to say.
I love it.
Time expands for me. But yeah, so
right.
you try and manage your own expectations, and that'll help manage your mood. But then do work it into your routine in your day, and just ultimately remind yourself when you're having the days when it seems harder, what do you want more?
Yeah.
And I think too, when it comes down to like I said, like I had those 30 goals. And so by just focusing on 3 and doing baby steps, happiness may not lie on the other side of achievement, but as I achieve these smaller goals, I'm able to start working on other goals too. I'm able to overlap more often and take more on because it seems more doable because I've already started having success. But when I look at those 30 goals, I'd say 3/4 of them, I was going to be a complete beginner at, a complete novice. That's so stressful and so much more work and so much more like, where do I start? So I had to take all these areas of life and pick out, okay, here's where I'm strong and I just want to get stronger. Here's one where I'm new at it and I want to get it, to intermediate level. And then here's one where I'm completely brand new at it. But I noticed all of my goals, I was like, you don't feel successful at anything. And I'm taking in too much new information and trying to think things through in too many new ways. And it was too much. I did not manage my expectations well.
So now that it's smaller and you've just taken 3 goals and you're going to chunk those out, honestly, I feel as also that when you do start working on things, when you put energy into something, the universe responds. So yes, I honestly, I believe in SMART goals. I believe in, all the steps and the checklists and all of that, but I also believe in magic or the universe or God, that once again, when you're putting energy into something, like energy comes back, the universe responds.
You get what you put out in the world, right?
Yes. So you throw that penny into Lake Superior and gosh darn it, woof, comes right back at you, right? Don't forget about magic. Still do the thing. Like this isn't like visualization. You actually have to do the thing. You can visualize. Yeah, you can visualize yourself after accomplishing the thing, right? Yes. But then in real life, you're doing the things that you have to do.
But don't. So magic is great, but also, like you said, put that energy out there. So there is a statistic I read about 10 years ago. I've been trying to find this study. I did a project on it in grad school, and I bring it up all the time, and everyone's like, oh, share that with me. And I was like, I don't have it. I don't have it. I look all the time. I can't find it. But I got an A in the paper. So I know, I know it existed in the world, and I know I understood it correctly. But this was a study on weight loss, and they found that there was a tremendous difference between people who maintain a healthy weight their entire life, people who were overweight, lost weight, and then were able to maintain their goal, healthy weight, and then people who were overweight and just constantly struggled with reaching their goal. So again, this isn't about weight, this is about goals. So what they found was the people who struggled wished for it more than they did it. Whereas the people who were having success reaching or just maintaining didn't wish for it. They did it. And it's so easy to get caught up in the wish and the dream that you forget
Mhm.
to do the SMART goals and that you forget to
Right.
take that daily, weekly, monthly
Right.
action. So I believe for me and the stuff I've been successful in, I've had to have that dream, I've had to have the wish and the magic to motivate me, to remind me what the end state, the desired end state is,
Mhm.
but that it can't stop there. You have to put energy into it. You even if it's a little bit and it just grows a
Mhm.
little bit, but you have to create that movement because the universe isn't
Yes.
always going to, knock on your door and be like, here's a check for $1 million. You won Publishers Clearinghouse. Like they don't really exist anymore. Like it's just you have to help them out. If your goal is to find a relationship and you never leave your living room, the angels are sitting there shaking you. It goes back to that story where, a man wishes to win the lottery his entire life and he gets up to the pearly gates and he's like, God, why didn't I win the lottery? And God's like, you didn't buy a ticket. I've been
So
waiting for you
true.
to buy
Yes.
a ticket.
Yes.
Um,
So combine the
yes.
combination of doing and believing, or wishing and achieving.
And so
And
I
I
think,
wouldn't even use wishing. Wishing is way too passive for me.
yeah, it goes back
Dreaming,
that visualization from our
right,
vision episode where
right.
you picture how you're going and you embody how you're going to feel, what it's going to
After
look
the
like, what you're
fact.
going to be doing. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then your brain will answer that question of how do I get there?
Yeah. The other thing I know that we're wrapping up. We're almost at time here, if we have a time. But one thing I wanted to bring up is something that Tim Ferriss says. And he says, and I'm going to get it wrong how he says it, but what if this was fun? So what if, like, you looked at your goals or the things you needed to do, and what if it was fun to actually
Mhm.
do these things? And maybe what do you need to do to make it fun to do these things, right? So maybe it's, maybe you're sort of tricking yourself into something. So when I get on the elliptical, I'm going to listen to podcasts, or I'm going to watch the show on Netflix that I want to watch, right? So that makes it fun for me. Maybe if it's like, I want to write this chapter, maybe I get to, like, put on a crown, like, just make it
You're
ridiculous, right?
writing
Put
down.
on a crown and light a candle, and now I'm going to write this
I'm
chapter.
going to go back. I don't think you're tricking yourself. I think that's such a weird, like from a social anthropological view, like that's such a
Yeah.
social construct that your goal, like it has to be hard and that it shouldn't be fun in the first place. And that if you
Ooh, I love
didn't
that.
suck, it didn't matter, kind of a
Yeah.
thing. It's just Amanda Klutz, I think is her name. She's a Instagram kind of fitness. I don't want to say influencer. Like she has a business around helping people
Mm-hmm.
achieve fitness goals. You may have heard of her. Her husband died sadly of COVID last year, but she
Yes.
talks all the time about how I don't have to work out. I get to move my body. When I became vegetarian, it was really, really easy for me. But when I tried veganism, or when I would talk to people, they'd be like, oh, I could never give up meat, or how did you give up this? How did I give up that? And it's not, I can't eat it. I don't eat it. And I think if you're trying to reframe your diet, it's not that I can't have a donut. I don't eat donut. Like if you just think of these little things that phrases we put in our head that make our goals seem stressful and unattainable and hard, and just try and flip it to more positive language. I get to move my body today. How fun. I'm going to go skip. I'm going to jump rope. I'm going to listen to music and dance while
Yeah.
I'm on the elliptical. Um, for
I
me,
love that.
I
And
was super stressed the other day and I was like, nobody knows about your goals but you, Tracy. What is the problem? What's the problem? These are things you want.
yes.
Calm down. It's not fun anymore. It's not a goal anymore. Do you
And I think that's okay too, if you want to just like
Yeah.
delete a goal. But this also brings me to something even a little bit more than just like, this is your goal and it should be fun. And I don't have to do this. I get to do this. But also, what if you were just the person who did that? What if, this is something, it's just very basic. Okay, instead of saying, no, I don't, like, oh, do you want a cigarette? Not, I don't even know people who smoke anymore, but I know people still
Yeah.
smoke. Do you want a cigarette? No, I can't. I quit. What if instead of saying that, you said, no, I don't smoke.
I
I'm not a
don't,
smoker.
I am a
Um,
non-smoker. Yep.
right. And so like what you said, like, it's not that I can't eat meat. It's that I
I
don't eat.
don't.
I don't.
Or sugar or gluten or dairy, whatever it is that your
Or
person
like,
nutrition is.
yeah, one of my goals is to write this thing. What if I just said, I'm a writer? Writer's right. Like, why is that so hard?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of taking a class and I'm getting so frustrated for so many reasons. It eats up your time. The professor's disorganized. It's not what I want to do in this moment. And I'm like, you're so lucky to get to be doing this. And like, this is going to help you achieve a bigger goal. So I just have to keep reframing it in my head.
Mm,
Again, you give yourself grace for where just don't have capacity to reframe. This isn't about toxic positivity,
yeah. Yeah.
but my goal is to complete this class, and these are the baby steps I have to, this is the work I have to do to get through it. And I
Yeah.
get to do that. I have a lot of, there's students, it's an online course, so there's students from all over the globe in this class. And so sometimes to hear stories of what's going on in their neighborhood, their culture, their area of the world, and that they're still able to be a dedicated and hardworking student, like I can be too. I want to be
Right.
more like them. I want to, yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Um, you know what? I think that when we were talking about like maybe you don't know what your goal is or something like that, you can, like we said, look at your vision board, make up a goal, meditate, pull a tarot card. I don't know, reach out to us. We can like we'd love to chat with you about it.
It comes down to, like you said, so have that bigger vision in mind, but then start small.
Absolutely. Start small and not to-do list small, but one goal. And then maybe the tiny steps that go along with that goal.
And work
That
those into your to-do list so that you're conscious of
exactly.
where your energy is being expended.
Yes.
Spent.
Look at it every day. Look at your goal every day. Write it down, look at it, not just on a post-it note that you can forget about, but maybe something that, I don't know, on your mirror or write it out every day. That's certainly a good way to keep
Yeah.
it uppermost.
Consciously reflect on it
Oh
each
my
day.
gosh. Yeah. So, of course, for every show, we pull either oracle cards or tarot cards. And so this morning I was shuffling the cards and saying, okay, what do we need to know? And two cards flew out. And it's so weird because last time three cards flew out for you, right?
I think
Tracy?
the universe was like, oh, Tracy, open the door. Here you go. Here's
I know. So now thanks a lot. And when I first looked at these cards, I was like, wow, what are you doing to me, universe? So the first one is the Four of Swords.
So it's like a man in a crypt laying, holding a sword, and then three swords are on the wall.
Yeah.
Beneath him or above him, hanging above him.
And then like there's a beautiful stained glass window up there above him. And basically
like he's resting.
Right. So that was the first card, and I'll go back to that. And then the second card was, and I believe we've had this card before, the Queen of Cups. And this card I do love because the Queen of Cups is just, it's one of my favorite cards. I don't know why. I guess I like the Queen cards apparently. But so it's a queen on her throne holding a beautiful chalice, blue sky behind her. I think a lot of water. Her feet are like on the shore and staring lovingly at the cup.
So I like her too, but just because I know what she means. So cups typically symbolize love and relationships and harmony.
Yes. But when I think about these two cards together, what I get is that, okay, this last year it has been big.
It's forced rest on a lot of people who wanted to be go, go, go.
Yes. And so even though we're talking about goals, maybe before, especially if you don't have a goal or you haven't thought about a goal, maybe now is the time just to be quiet, to rest, to contemplate what's happening, maybe what you want to do, to fill your well, right? Just to take some time to consider yourself, to know yourself, maybe meditate, maybe literally take some naps. Just go inward, right, for a while to rest, to fill your well. And then once your well is filled, then you can start. And I realize that this isn't maybe necessarily the card, but it's like once you fill your well, you can start to produce a little bit, but also trust your intuition. Okay. But I don't think you can trust your intuition and maybe what your goal should be until you've taken the time to just go inward and think about, what do I want my life to be like? And I think that that's just fine to take time. You don't have to be like, I need a goal. They said I need a goal. I need to write down a goal. Like, okay, let's just settle down, go
Maybe
inward.
your goal is to rest. That's a goal.
Maybe that is your goal.
And
Maybe your goal is
that's
to know yourself better.
Hold yourself accountable. So in addition to the trusting your intuition and that whole image of, instead of using your cup to fill others and then having an empty cup, wait until yours is full and overflowing and fill others with the overfill. Trusting your intuition is huge with goals. But when I see those two cards together, I think of self-love.
Yes.
And for this conversation on goals, achieving your goals, working towards your goals is an act of self-love, putting something you want first. Because otherwise, what does the day-to-day matter?
Right.
Whether it's a baby
I think
purpose or
that's
a
so
big
important,
Yeah.
Tracy, because I think so often when we think of goals and goal setting, it's sort of, it's almost like that patriarchal construct, right? That masculine construct of achieve, 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 go, go, go. But actually what we're talking about, or what you just so eloquently said, is self-love. And if your goals don't have anything to do with just like filling yourself up and being who you want to be and living the life you want to live, maybe they're not the right goals.
Yeah. You don't have to have a physical product you're producing or a change in your appearance to have achieved a goal. Goals can be, I'm going to be kinder to myself every day. I'm going to reframe my negative self-talk. Goals can be, I'm going to be a blessing to everyone I meet, and you've talked about that in our affirmation episode. So thank you, Amy, so much for giving us kind of a walkthrough of goals. And you're actually going to, this leads into our next episode too. So what are we going to talk about next time?
So if you've settled, once you have settled on a goal, next time we'll have more tools to help you. It's a weird way to help you with your goal, but believe me when I say this, it actually will help you with your goal while also creating and inviting space for you to create your goals in.
I can't focus if my space doesn't have that vibe I talked about. So I'm excited for more ways on how my space can help invite some success and focus into my goal setting.
Cool.
Well, thank you, Amy. And everybody, if this episode spoke to your soul, please share it with a friend. And if you have time, give us some love on whatever platform you listen on. You can also reach us at brightlypodcast@gmail.com. We'd love it if you take the time to rate, review, and subscribe so that others can receive this message as well. If you have ideas for what you'd like to hear in future episodes, please let us know that too. We'd love to hear from you.
And as always, have a bright and beautiful day.
Bye.
Bye.